Good afternoon, YWCA viewers. My name is Lauren Trunco. I'm the Chief Development Officer at YWCA Northeastern New York, and this is Series 3, Episode 2 of The Butterfly Effect, sponsored by KeyBank and Pursuit. KeyBank's foundation mission is to support organizations and programs that prepare individuals for thriving futures. When people and organizations come together, great work gets done, and our entire region thrives. KeyBank thanks everyone at the YWCA Northeastern New York for making a difference. Pursuit provides businesses with affordable loans and resources so that they can transform and grow. They are an Albany-based, community-focused lender, 100% invested in the success of their clients. If you are a small business owner looking for funds to start, grow, or recover, you can learn more at www.pursuitlending.com. We cannot thank these two amazing sponsors enough for their support, not only this month, but year-round. This is an empowerment series where volunteer hosts interview inspiring women in our community. Because November is Homelessness Awareness Month, we're choosing to discuss topics around housing and gratitude. And I am very grateful for our guest today because I've known her since birth. Today we have Trisha Cornwell. I'm so excited to have her. I've been friends with Trisha, like I said, my whole life, and just have been inspired by her as an adult, and we were the best of friends as kids. And so I can't wait to share her story with you all. So welcome, Trisha.
Thank you, Lauren. So excited to be here. And let's make sure we don't tell all of our childhood.
No family business. Our parents were best friends, but here we are talking as adults, right?
Yes.
So much to share, so much stuff to share. So do you want to get right into it?
Yeah, let's jump in.
All right. So tell us about yourself. For those that don't know Trisha Cornwell, tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Trisha Cornwell. I'm from the Capital Region, grew up, born and raised in Albany, New York. And when I was 18, I went off to college, and after that relocated to Houston, Texas, where I've been from 2006 all the way to 2020. I started my career down there. I was a teacher, worked in teacher recruitment, ended up leading a nonprofit there for 7 years called Emerge, a college access and success organization, and then decided in 2020 to become a mom on my own. I'm a solo parent, and having a baby during the pandemic was definitely not something I could have predicted. But during that time, just had so many reflections and decided to relocate back up here to Albany, New York. To be closer to family. And so I'm currently working as the vice president of marketing and strategy for a B2B tech marketing firm. It's actually based out of Boston, but it's fully remote. So we have clients all over the country. And I'm also newly starting my own sort of podcast, blog, Instagram account called The Solo Mama, where I'm really just trying to inspire women who maybe are taking a different path to motherhood, or are single parent, solo parent, and just trying to show a different kind of lifestyle that's happening in my life right now. So that's who I am, and I'm ready to jump on to the next question.
You've always been so open to share about what you're going through and to help other people. And I love the Solo Mama account. I think even if you're not a solo parent, you'll find it very relatable. But it's hysterical and so spot on. And sometimes you just need that outlet to just know that you're not alone going through it.
Gosh. So. Well, it's so funny because when I don't know if you can relate to this, but when I became a parent, I found all of these blogs that were really for people that were in 2-parent households, couples. And I'm like, okay, wait, when are all these people having time to do the laundry and fold their clothes this perfect way? I'm just trying to make it through the day here. And so just coming up with different strategies and that sort of thing to figure out how to do this when you are parenting on your own.
Yeah, it's great. And I can relate. And that's why I love it. Who inspired you when you were young?
So I know this might be very cliche, but I have been obsessed with Oprah since literally the show came on.
You have, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I just always loved how she just featured so many different stories and different perspectives. I loved how she sort of broke barriers and sort of transcended different spaces during the time, especially during that time, and really brought conversations that today I feel are so, we have these conversations all the time, but I feel like she really elevated some conversations that were not being talked about or featured. And so I've just always loved her and sort of kind of taken that with me into my professional, personal life as well.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And who was your mentor other than
Oh
Oprah
my gosh,
herself?
it's funny. I have people ask me all the time, "Who's your mentor? Do you have a lot of
Yeah.
mentors?" I have always thought about mentorship not as one person, but like almost taking like a crumb from everybody. The people
Yeah.
that, oh, I really like how this person is so empathetic. I love this person's leadership. And even learning from people that I've really not liked or thought,
Mhm.
wow, this person's never prepared or this person's late to every meeting. I never wanted to be like that. Or
Mhm.
and I think like if you think about it that way, we all have something to learn, we all have something to share. And if you're open to learning from everybody, you can sort of build your own little brand of who you want to be as you move into the next stage of your career.
Yeah. And have you, as you've kind of gotten further into your own career, do you find yourself mentoring others? And what's that experience like?
Yeah. I really try to think, especially Gen Z, all of these new younger employees coming in. I think we have so much to learn from them. They bring such a different perspective. But I also think there's so many just great learnings and tips from older generations that I think I've integrated into my life.
Mhm.
So one thing that I tell young people all the time is that when you're growing up, I think in school, you learn, oh, I have to be, great in school. I have to get this credential or this certification or this degree. And if I get those things, all of a sudden I'll get access to all these jobs. And we really devalue and don't give enough, I think, credit or time to the power of networking and just
Mhm.
building relationships with people. I think about the job I have today, right now, is a job I was connected to because I worked with someone 12 years ago. And when this job opened, she contacted me and said, I think you would be great to come work at our company. We hadn't talked in almost 10 years.
Mhm.
But it's like how you present in your current job. I tell people all the time, the best interview for your next job is the job you're in right now.
Mhm.
People apply for promotions and they're like, oh, I applied. I went through the interview process. I didn't get picked. And when you're an internal employee, your interview is literally every day.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
don't think people really understand that how you're perceived, how people see you going the extra mile or the quality of your work is your interview for your
Mhm.
next job.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice, especially like you said, as we kind of progress in our career, it really is the relationships. I mean,
Mhm.
talking to other professional women, it comes up over and over again. And it's not necessarily like, it's about who and
Right.
people always say that. And to an extent it is, but I think more like you said, it's just the relationships and people being able to speak to your character when you're not in the interview.
Exactly.
If they hear something bad about you, knowing enough about you, saying that there's no way that's
No
true.
way. Exactly, and
Right?
it's
So,
totally, and it's not even to be mean or rude, it's just I think everyone naturally does that, right? Like, you think about your last job and you think, "Who are the 3 people, if I worked somewhere else, I would wanna bring with me? And who are the 3 people that if I worked anywhere else, I would, like, lay my body down across the hiring line to
yeah,
say, 'We can never let this person come work here because they're
yeah,
just toxic.'"
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Do you think you've been kind of in the world, you've been so passionate about education for so long and working
yeah.
with young kids, and I feel like that has really kind of molded you into the
Mhm.
professional you are today. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your early years and kind of what you
Yeah.
still bring with you?
Yeah. So I worked in education for the first 17 years of my career. And it's funny because people will always ask me, oh, what about education really inspires you? And to me, it's always been about talent. It's been less about education in terms of like working in the talent sector and more about making sure that the most talented people in this country have access to the same opportunities.
Yeah.
So with Emerge, I was working in college access and helping students get into the top colleges in the country, kids that were valedictorian of their class and being advised to apply to community colleges, which are a great option for many kids. But when you can get a full scholarship to around here to Union or Skidmore or
Yeah.
Siena, why not take the opportunity that, a higher income
Yeah.
student would take, right? But to me, it's always been the talent gap. It's like, how do we ensure that more people get into spaces of privilege and power and are the decision makers?
Mhm.
There I am. That's why I was so inspired about Emerge. And when I relocated back to upstate New York, I just started really having an interest in like, how does the private sector play a role in this as well?
Yeah.
And so currently I work in the tech sector, which is dominated by predominantly white male professionals. It's not very diverse. Our company is one of the only companies run by all women. The whole leadership team are women in a sector that is predominantly male dominated right now. But once again, I feel like I'm in this seat now in my current company where I feel like I can try to create access and pipelines for people that maybe would be overlooked or not even get into this world. And so it's kind of the same theme, even though I'm not technically still working in the education sector. I feel like what inspires me about it is the same thing. It's like, how do we create more pipelines for people to have access when, you know, so much of what I just said before, so much is just based on who you're connected to.
Yeah.
So.
It reminds me of, and I don't know whether it was Emerge or your job previous was a Teach for America that you were with before that.
Yep. I was
when you were organizing the college tours.
Oh yeah.
And you know, brought a group of kids up to the Northeast to tour different colleges up here that were options for them that they may not have even realized. And you put out a call to all of us on Facebook, like, who's got blankets? Who's got towels? We need a place to stay here. It was so inspiring to just watch you kind of like just build the path, you know. It was like okay, we have flights, what's next? Okay, we've got and you set up things for them to do at each place, and you had contacts in each place, and it was just so great to meet the kids. I think I went with you guys to Syracuse. And it was just such a fun group, and the kids were amazing, and it was just so neat to see them kind of experience all that with you. So
and you know, it's funny because even in this area, I think I'm still trying to figure out just the role I want to try to play or partner with other organizations that exist here around college access, because where I was in Houston, there were so many organizations that had started. And in Albany right now, I'm still kind of looking around to see, you know, where's the, you know, where are the opportunities? What are the school districts doing? Because in the same way, I mean, it is a talent gap in almost every city in this country. And so I'm excited to just kind of see what role I'll be playing here.
Yeah. I would love to explore that further for the YWCA with you at a separate time. We've been talking about that behind the scenes. So I'd love to pick your brain about that too. You talked a little bit already about how did you come to the job you're in now. And you talked a little bit about your identity as a woman and kind of how that factors into your role. Based on what you know now, after all that you shared with us, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Okay, I'll go personal first. So number one, I would have told myself to freeze my eggs extremely earlier, mostly because I think at this stage of life, like we do have a biological clock, and there's a lot of things that happen in life and we don't always know when we want to become parents and that sort of thing. It's also extremely expensive. So I'm not sure if that even is a real answer or not, but I do think that you've
been thinking about it.
Knowing what I know now about fertility, I didn't know at 21. You know? And when I was going through the process to have my daughter, I, you know, was 35, and I just didn't even realize like how your fertility changes. I mean, you know it, you don't really know it until you're in the mode of doing it. So I guess that would be one. Two would be that life doesn't have to go in like one conventional order. I think, you know, you and I both grew up, I guess, in very I don't even know what the right word would be, like traditional, a mom and a dad. And, you know, and look at now, you know, fast forward, it's funny. Like I think about myself, I'm having a, you know, daughter on my own. My sister is married to a woman. They have a daughter. Like we've just kind of changed the mold of like, what is the norm, I guess. I remember when I was thinking about this, my mom was unfortunately dying of cancer, and I was going through this process, and I'm like, you know, when I'm 60, do I care if I'm, you know, married, or if I've been married for 30 years before I have a kid, or does it have to be this way? And I was working with an executive coach at the time who also had a daughter, adopted her daughter on her own. And she's like, why does everything have to go in the same order? Like, what if you know, have your daughter first and meet the man of your dreams at 45? Or what if you have 3 partners in your lifetime and you're not married for 40 years, you know, and what if it's just in a different order? And sorry, I think my thing cut out.
That's all right. I can still hear you.
Yeah. Once I was able to just release the story, that like the story that I had in my head didn't have to be my story.
Yeah.
It was like this freeing thing. And, you know, becoming a mom, I have a 2.5-year-old. She's like the light of my life. I love her so much. If you follow the Instagram account, I'll talk all about it. But you know, I'm just so happy I felt comfortable enough to do it, and just kind of like taking the stigmas away and just saying like, okay, what type of life do I want to live? And what are the most important things to me right now? And doing it. And it just, I hope that, you know, other women who are in the same age group, 35 to 40, maybe they're single, maybe they are divorced, they're not happy in their relationship, and they want to become parents, that they know that there are other ways to do it, that there's other pathways. And like, you don't necessarily have to follow like, you don't have to follow the same path that your grandparents followed in order for you to consider like a successful life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I find myself sharing your story with women our age that I come across that are in that kind of middle, you know, ground, whether they're, you know, still searching for the partner before they have children, but they're so determined. You know, but being a mom is something that's really important to them, but they're waiting for that person to do it with. And I think that's, you know, talking to you through the process and, you know, knowing my situation, it really, you know, I think you're right. You just to let go of that, like what you think you're supposed to be doing, or the order you think that we're all supposed to be following to get to motherhood. You know, I think when you let go of that, you'll be surprised, you know, where your life takes you. And like you said, 50 years from now, 30 years from now, will you regret not being a wife, or will you regret not being a mother? And those are two very separate questions and very separate answers. So
totally. And I'll just never forget when the executive coach was like, okay, close your eyes. You're 80 years old. You're on your deathbed. You have no kids. Are you okay with that? And I'm like, no. Okay, close your eyes. 80 years old. You're not married. And I'm like, do I have a nice house? Just kidding. You know, whatever. So, but I was like, no, I'd love to find someone, but if I find multiple people along the way, I'm okay with that, you know, or if I meet my person later, I'm okay with that. I'm just not going to be okay with not becoming a parent. And I do have a window of time where I have to make the decision if I'm going to do it or not. And
definitely. What do you want other women to know?
So one thing I want other women to know, and I don't know if people are familiar with this statistic, but I think it's so important as somebody who's managed a lot of women, and it's just a trend that I've personally experienced and that I know in the research it shows. So if you look at the research, when a job becomes open and it's time to apply, when the job opens and it's time to apply, if a guy is applying, a man is applying for the job, they only think they need to have 60% of the qualifications to be able to put their application in. So they're like, okay, let me look through. I don't have almost half of these, but you know what? I got this, putting the application in. Women generally need 100% of the qualifications to feel like they should apply. And that is just like, no wonder why we have a gap in terms of like leadership positions and who's going after what. But I mean, even women I've managed, like I have to convince them to apply for promotions when a lot of men would just put their application in. And I've noticed it in friends, like, like people telling me, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And it's like,
that's so true.
Are you able to do this? You are, like, you can do it. And so I think like, just apply, because men are applying every day with half your qualifications and they're going to be considered. So So that's one. And then I think the last thing, and this is more just for like working moms, is that I think that you can do it all, but you can never do it all at the same time. And so if you're a new mom, maybe now is not the time to apply for the promotion, you know, but 2 years from now, like go for the extreme one. But I think like trying to say that you can do everything, you can have this high powered job, you can have your house is organized, your kids know what your kid's doing. You can't do it all at the same time, and you need help. And
stop trying. It's not going to happen.
You got to make sacrifices, and you have to make changes to be able to make your life work. So those are my two
That's good advice.
tidbits.
Is there an interview question that you've never, I'm sure you've been interviewed a lot in your life. Is there an interview question that you've never been asked that you wish you would? And what would your response be?
I don't know. I saw that you sent this one over and I was like,
what would any question that you've never been asked?
How can we pay you much, much, much more?
We have all this money laying around. Would you accept
all this money? Would you like a bonus every month? No, just kidding. I'm joking, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, okay, I guess I'll just flip this. I do feel like as I've gotten older, I care so much more about the culture of a company or an organization than anything else. Like, I think I can actually like doing a lot of different jobs as long as I'm working with people that are like values aligned, that we like believe in the same things and we care about the same things. And that takes a lot of time to figure out when you're interviewing. Like, is this a company that like I'm gonna fit in here, that we care about similar things, that we value similar, you know, we have similar values. And I do think that in the long run, that matters a lot.
Yeah. It's so interesting how that's changed. And I don't know if it's our age or the pandemic, but the market and how that, you know, if I were to go for an interview tomorrow, I would be considering them much more carefully than I'm sure. They're probably desperate to fill the position,
right,
and get somebody in there to start working. But as someone going into a new workplace, you're right. I mean, the culture can outweigh almost everything, every other benefit that they could throw at you, to be able to have, you know, flexibility, feel valued, you know, your voice is heard, people are considering you and how things affect you in the company, you know, company wide. I think all of that makes such a big difference. So
yeah,
I would second that for sure.
Yeah, and I say that too, knowing that like it's such a privilege to be able to even, you know, have those thoughts, you know, or be able to have considerations. And I mean that's a whole other, we could talk a whole podcast about that, like, inclusion in the hiring process. And as an intern, like that's another thing I'm talking to my company a lot about now, is just, you know, if you think about like, what does an internship really mean? It means that your parents probably knew somebody, they had social capital. It means that you had, if it's unpaid, that you had the opportunity to work for free, which many people don't have. And so when we start asking like, which college graduates are qualified, we're really just asking which college graduates, you know, have privilege,
are able.
Also, I think it's like, when you think about it like that, it really changes like who you're willing to interview and who you're willing to talk to and hire. And it really, in many ways, I think it really opens up the funnel to like what kind of talented people are out there. And maybe they don't have a traditional experience, but think about how many people we're missing out on because of that, you know.
100%, definitely. What is something that is unique to you, a special talent, or what excites you?
Okay, so I think like my secret sauce in the professional world is that I'm very goal oriented in terms of like planning. I think it also plays into my personal life of like deciding to become a mom on my own. But I just think that like anything you want to do, anything worth doing, you have to have a plan to get there. You can't just talk about it. It's like, okay, if you want to write a book, let me see the backwards plan from like from now until January of next year. What are you going to write each month? Or and I think I'm really good at helping people make their own plans, whether it's financial planning or weight loss or professional, you know, skill building, that sort of thing. And I think it's something that like I've helped my own organizations grow, but also I've helped people professionally get to and personally get to places that they really want to get to. So yeah, and I really just like really appreciate people's stories. I think everybody brings something different. Their life experience has just adds something really unique to any workplace or just any like friendship or any friend group. And I really appreciate those things.
Yeah. And you are a really good, I mean, I don't know. I keep going back to the word teacher. I think it's like ingrained in your soul to be a teacher, but I know that when I got the role here, it was a big step outside of my comfort zone. And you were like one of the first people I called just to like sit down and talk to. And you really like just, you just inspire and give confidence. Like you said, you have all the qualifications. Like, why are you not going for this?
Exactly. I know. I forgot about that. Exactly. It's like, of course you're going to apply for this job. Like, what are you even talking about?
So I think you are unique in that way, that I think probably a lot of your friends you would be the first call that they would make if they were doubting themselves. And so that, not only makes a good boss and a good leader, but certainly a good friend. So I would also agree with that answer. Correct. We're getting to the end here.
I know.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, okay. So I kind of shared before just the idea of you can't have it all, but you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time, I think is so true. And as I've become a working mom, it is even more true. Like I feel like prioritizing and trade-offs and deciding what matters most has been critical. The last one I don't know how to word it, but I had this boss. This is when I first became a people manager. So it's like my first time managing people. I don't know. You know how that is. It's like, you think you know what you're doing. And then you're like, okay, I said the wrong thing. Like, what happened? Why isn't anybody? I told everybody what to do and they didn't do it.
I sent the email. Why is nobody listening?
I've sent an email 3 months ago. Why didn't anybody do what I said? Right. So, but I had this boss. And he said 2 things. He was awesome. I love him. Like he's one of the people I take so many lessons from, but he said, you'll never win by making other people wrong. So like if you tell people, oh, you did it wrong, I'm right. And I think it's so true in any setting, even like personal relationships, romantic relationships, like you don't change their behavior because you told them they're wrong. They change their behavior because they like see the value, or they see that you care, or they see that like, okay, this, I need to have a conversation in a way that someone can receive it.
Yeah.
The other thing that he did that I've taken into my own leadership,
style.
Toolkit or whatever, is he always like addressed something that was inappropriate or like unprofessional right in the moment. So let's say like a teammate, I'll never forget this day. Our teammate was giving a presentation and there were 4 people on the team. A whole bunch of people were in the room. And 2 of us, I was one of them, we were on our cell phones, like texting or doing something. And as soon as the meeting ended, he was like, hey, can you stay after for 1 second? And I'm like, oh, sure. I like no clue what it was. And he's like, so like when your teammates are presenting, it's really rude if you're on your phone because it shows that you're not paying attention and it's disrespectful. And I'm like,
never again, right? You never did it again.
Never did it again. But the fact that he called it out, I knew not to do it again any other place. And I was like, wow, okay. And it wasn't even like a big deal because he didn't make it a big deal. And so I've brought that into like my leadership and so many, I always say it's like the difference. I always say like new managers, I'll just give you my analogy quick, but so I always say like, imagine that you eat a plate of lasagna for lunch and you leave the lunch plate right on the table and you leave it there for 2 weeks. When you go to scrub it off, you're like, you are like scrubbing because it will not come off the plate because you waited too long, right?
Yeah.
But if you had just literally taken the plate to the sink and put water on it as soon as it happened, it would have just been done and you're on to the next.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how feedback is in the beginning. It's like, if it just becomes part of your relationship, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But if it's like that thing that you have to like, it's so uncomfortable, which that's how it is when you first start managing people.
Right.
It just makes it worse, you know? Yeah. And so anyways, he's somebody that I really respect. And I feel like I've learned just watching him and so many other managers like that. I feel like I've been really grateful and just honestly blessed to have really good people that have been my managers over time.
Yeah, that it means so much to have a good, leader, especially early on in your career, to have strong leadership and people that really care about kind of molding and shaping, the future of the company or whatever, the industry. It makes a huge difference. Leadership style.
Totally.
Trisha, that was all the questions that were on my list. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to share with the world watching right now?
You know what? I don't think so. I'm so excited. I really want to get involved with the YWCA. I know you guys are doing great work for the community.
Yeah.
And just thank you for even putting this on, KeyBank for sponsoring it. What a cool, innovative way to kind of connect with people. It's
Yeah.
really great. So
That's great. Well, I thank you so much for coming on and talking with me in this capacity. It's been nice to kind of hear your professional nuggets of wisdom that not only myself but others can take with them. You've been doing it and doing it really well for a long time. So thanks for sharing and answering these questions for us.
yes, thank
And
you.
like I said, thanks to our sponsors again, KeyBank, Pursuit. The series will be going all month long, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 12:30. So tune in to see who's here next week. But for now, that's it. Trisha Cornwell, thank you so much.
Thanks, Lauren.